All right, so once you've created your very own version of the skeleton project, or you've checked out the skeleton project that I created, then we're ready to get our in-app purchases set up with Apple. So we don't need Xcode for this step, so I'm just going to switch it to the background, and I'm going to go over to my browser, and we're going to head over to developer.apple.com/account in order to log in to the developer portal. Now, once you have logged in, this is the page that you should see. And here we're going to go over to certificates, IDs, and profiles. And you're going to go into identifiers and click on app IDs. Now, this is a table that lists all of your app IDs. And you can just go ahead and click the plus button to add a new one. So now it takes you through the process of registering a brand new app ID, and this will register your app on Apple's central database. So the name of our app is going to be called Inspo Quotes, and then we're going to make sure that explicit app ID is set here, and then we're going to set our bundle ID. Now, if you have a look back over to Xcode, you can see that this is the same as our bundle identifier in the Inspo Quotes, General tab, and Identity section. So I'm just simply going to copy this over to here. Now remember, bundle IDs have to be unique on Apple's databases, so you won't be able to use this exact bundle ID. So I recommend using a reverse domain name. So if your domain is www.londonappbury.com, then com.londonappbury. Now, if you don't have a company that has a website, then you can just do com.your full name, so whatever it may be, making sure that you try to keep it as long as possible, because remember, it has to be unique, and then putting in the name of the app at the end. Now, it's really important that this matches exactly with what you've got here. So if it's easier, change it here and then simply just copy and paste it into here, because all of the capitalizations matter a huge deal. Okay, so next thing is to scroll down to the app services section, and you can see that the game center and in-app purchases services are ticked by default. Basically, whenever you create a new app ID, they will automatically include these two capabilities to your app. So we don't even have to do anything, and we just have to click continue. And now all you have to do is click register and then click done. Now, don't worry if these green lights aren't switched on when you're clicking on register and done. They take a little while to come on, and you can view it at a later date and you'll see it switch on after you've clicked done. So this information is going to propagate through Apple's servers and databases. So while it does that, let's do a couple of checks to make sure that we have as smooth a ride as possible. Now, first of all, if you've published any apps onto the App Store, then you'll know all about App Store Connect. This is the place where you put in all of the details for your app and push it onto the App Store. Now, if you've never published an app and this is the first time, then I'll take you through it step by step. So first things first, head over to appstoreconnect.apple.com and then go ahead and just log in. Now, once you're in, this is what you should see. There's a whole bunch of icons. And most importantly, at this stage, we want to make sure that up at the top here, you don't see any red text. So usually if there's something that you need to sign or you need to check or you need to read, Apple will routinely on a weekly basis, it seems, update their contracts and legals and a whole bunch of things. And you just need to make sure that you've made all of those go away by signing the things that you need to sign, okaying the things you need to okay, and checking the things that they want you to read. So another good place to check while you're here is to head over to Agreements, Tax, and Banking. So this icon over here. Now, if you haven't set up your Agreements, Tax, and Banking, then it might say something like Request Contract. And you'll have to click the Request button and fill out all of the information and submit it. And it might take some time for the agreements to be processed by Apple. So even after you submit it, during the time before it gets approved, you won't be able to test your in-app purchase products. So if you see any buttons under the Agreement, Tax, and Banking that says Request, make sure you fill it all out and submit it. And at the point when you see Paid Applications as a contract type under the Contracts in Effect, then you are good to go. And that is when you've made sure that all your agreements, tax, and banking is all in tip-top condition with Apple. And you can go ahead and click done. Now, the final thing to make sure is that when you head over to developer.apple.com, make sure that they haven't got any pop-ups for you that says accept the latest Apple Development Program license agreements. But if you do have any agreements that you need to sign or read on developer.apple.com, it will usually also show up at the top of App Store Connect. So making sure that you don't have any red boxes over here is a pretty surefire way of knowing that you are good in the eyes of Apple, which obviously is very, very important if we want to make in-app purchases work. So now that we've dillied and dallied around here, hopefully all of our information when we registered our App ID has now been propagated through Apple services, and we are ready to create a brand new app. So again, inside App Store Connect, go ahead and click on My Apps. And once you're here, just go ahead and click the plus button to create a new app. Now, we're going to fill out this form to create our brand new app. And don't worry, nothing's going to be released or put onto the App Store without you being able to okay it. So just go ahead and select iOS for your platform. Now, the name of the app for me is going to be Inspo Quotes. Now, you won't be able to have the same name that I've got, because they have to be unique across the App Store. So if you want to call it something around Inspo Quotes, just add your initials or add, your birthday or a special number or something until this form actually lets you submit. Next thing is to choose your primary language, which is going to be English. And then we're going to leave bundle ID until the last. The next thing is the SKU, which stands for Stock Keeping Unit. So this is a unique ID that you give to your apps so that you can identify it amongst your app catalog. Now, in our case, we tend to prefix it with Lab, London Appbury, and then we'll just list the app number that it is. This last one, limit user access, we're going to keep it blank. And finally, we're ready to go ahead and click the drop-down list for our bundle ID. Now, as I said before, it takes a little bit of time for the data that you entered previously when you created a new app ID to propagate through Apple servers. So if you don't see that bundle ID show up here, then just wait a little bit, get a cup of tea, eat some biscuits. I really like ginger biscuits, but you can eat obviously any biscuits you want. I don't know why I felt the need to tell you this. Once you come back after a little while, then you should be able to see the bundle identifier that you inputted previously, which in my case was com.londonappbury.inspoquotes. And in the front, you've got the name of the app. So select that into the bundle ID, and we're ready to create our brand new app. So now you get onto the app information and your listing details page. And this is where when you publish your app, you're going to add your title, subtitle, your information, like which category should it go in, or what should be the price of the app that you're going to set, and also uploading your Xcode project to it. But for now, we're just interested in testing in-app purchases. So you're going to head over to the Features tab over here, and you're going to be inside in-app purchases. And we're going to click on the plus sign to create a new in-app purchase. Now you can see here that there's several options that you have. And Apple gives you really good examples of when you would use each. So the 4 types are consumable, so an in-app purchase that gets used once and after which it gets depleted and you have to purchase it again. So for example, if you had a fishing app and you had fish food that you need to lure the fish, then this will be consumed every time they use it. Commonly, this is used inside games when you need extra in-game currency, coins or energy or whatever that may be. Now, the next one is non-consumable. So this is something that gets purchased once and does not expire or decrease with use. So for example, this would be, say if you had an app that had ads and you charged the user 99 cents to get rid of the ads, this would be a non-consumable in-app purchase, because once they've gotten rid of the ads, you shouldn't ask them to buy it again to get rid of the ads, right? That would be really, really bad. So the third one is a auto-renewable subscription. And this, for example, could be Spotify, right? If they were charging it through the in-app purchases, then they could charge you $10 a month to continue to get access to their music catalog. And this would auto-renew every month or every week or whatever it is that you set. And the final one is something that very few people use, which is a non-renewing subscription. So this, for example, gives you a 1-year subscription where you're charged every single month, but after that, it doesn't renew automatically. So in our case, we're going to choose a non-consumable in-app purchase because we want to be able to give users access to the premium quotes that's locked behind the paywall, and they only have to pay once in order to get access to the rest of the content of the app. So this is one of the most frequently used in-app purchase types, and we're going to go ahead and click create. So now we have to enter a little bit of information for our brand new in-app purchase. Now the first thing is a reference name, and this is just a name for you to be able to identify it on App Store Connect. It doesn't appear anywhere in the app, and in our case we're just going to call it Premium Quotes, just to make it really clear. Now, the product ID is really, really essential. The product ID is going to be your bundle ID. So whatever you had in here that you also gave to your app. And then at the end, I usually just tag a dot and then the name of my in-app purchase. So in this case, it'll be Premium Quotes without a space in between. Now, you can capitalize it or not capitalize it any way you wish, but make sure that you copy and save this string somewhere because we're going to be using it in order to test and implement our in-app purchase a little bit later on, because we're going to say inside our app that we're going to point towards this product ID, and that is the one that we're going to try and get the user to purchase. And once it's been purchased successfully, then we show them the premium quotes. All right, so next is pricing. So you have to choose a pricing tier, and it goes all the way up to $1,000 or £1,000. But in this case, we're just going to choose tier 1, which is 99 cents or 99p, as currently I'm registered in the UK App Store. Now, the next part, if you scroll down, is the localizations. And this is the name that the user will see when they view the in-app purchases of your app on the App Store. So you want to give it a name that makes sense to them. So if you want, you can also use Premium Quotes because that kind of makes sense for us. And for the description, I'm also going to just write Premium Quotes because it saves a little bit of time. Now, when you're actually doing this for your actual app, then you might want to put a little bit of thought to what you want to tell the user about this in-app purchase. You know, maybe give them a little bit of sales pitch. Now, if you want to add other localizations, so for example, users on the Chinese App Store, what they should see, because say if they can't understand the English very well, then they'll be confused about the in-app purchases, then you can add as many localizations as you wish. So for our purposes, we're just going to have the one. Yours might say English US if your native store is the US. Mine says UK. It doesn't really matter as long as you provide the name and description of a single localization as a default. Now, this is where you can put an image for your in-app purchase, again, a little bit later on, but it's optional, so we're going to skip it. And finally, this is the last part, which requires a screenshot of your in-app purchase in action. Now, we haven't implemented it, so we're just going to skip it and click Save. Now, because we've entered and filled out all of the fields that needs to be filled in, then it'll allow us to do this, but it'll give you this little warning saying missing metadata. And that refers to this section here, so that when you're ready to submit your app to publish, you should add a screenshot of your in-app purchase being triggered in your app. And I'm going to show you what that will look like just a little bit later on. But as far as we're concerned, we're completely ready to get going and start writing some code and testing our app. So in the next lesson, we're going to get started creating our Inspo Quotes app. And once you're done over here, I'll see you on the next lesson.